Hi, welcome to the new episode of Travels. And I'm Sanjay Kumar, and today I have a wonderful guest, Seema Kumari, with us. And I know Seema since last few years when she, actually got admission into Harvard with full scholarship, and she comes from a village in Jharkhand. And when she cracked this, she was a national news and national sensation. Even Priyanka Chopra, she did not miss to tweet about her achievement, and she tweeted, that she would really like to watch how Seema unfolds her journey. So, it's been 2.5 years since then. Seema is at Harvard, and I remember I had interviewed Seema that time, and this is after 2.5 years. Then today we are going to capture her journey, from the beginning until now, and what story and what life she's thinking ahead of Harvard. So I am very glad and happy that Seema is with us today. Welcome, Seema, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk here.
Yeah, so I remember we had a conversation when you had got admitted at Harvard, and it was such a lovely moment for all of us, joyful moment. And I remember that I was elected as the president of Harvard Club of India that time, and we organized the session with you. And I remember when at the peak of COVID, when these sessions were very common, and most of the sessions used to have 10 or 20 participants. When we had a session with you, it was over 200 participants. They all were very excited. A lot of youngsters joined our show. So, I felt really privileged that I spoke with you that time. And I still feel very privileged to know you as a person, as student, as someone who is an inspiration, from place like Jharkhand, Bihar. You are coming from a very small village, so it's been a privilege. And so to start, our conversation, Seema, I would like, many of our viewers would not know about your journey. So why don't we start with how did Seema became Seema, or crossed her boundaries or limitations. So why don't you start with your early days, your school days?
I was born in a village in Jharkhand, and as every parent thinks, the girl would probably get married when she's 17 or 18, and that was probably the future for me. Until 2012, when I came across this non-profit called Yuva India, and that was the first time I saw girls playing football, because girls didn't play any sports then. It was only for boys. And when I saw the girls laughing and having fun, I definitely wanted to be a part of that program. And when I came back home,
How old you were?
I was probably 9. 9
Wow.
years old when I saw the girls playing football. And it was during summer when I was going to cut grass with my uncle, and I had seen those girls. And when I came back, I asked one of my cousins who was part of that team, and asked her if I could be a part of the team. And she did tell me that I didn't have to pay any fee to be a part of that team or attend any of the practices. And I was so excited, because financial constraints are the major reasons why we don't go to colleges, or why we drop out of school or high school and get married. Another reason is because it's part of the culture. That's what we have seen in the villages. Girls drop out of school when they are 16 or 17 and get married, or just become a child bride, and that is their life afterwards. But then I didn't know what my future hold. But in 2013, 18 girls from Yuva went to Spain, and that was probably the moment that kind of changed my life. Seeing those girls travel to Spain, and knowing that they were flying on a plane, and I wanted to. I did not.
Saw them going.
I saw them going, and one of my cousins was part of it. And when she described how people are just so different. The food is different, the language is different. It was Spanish, and I didn't know what that language were or how that sounded. But just like seeing her describe kind of like gave me hope that, maybe I could be one of those girls one day and travel to Spain. It didn't happen until 2016 when I did play in the Dynasty Cup and traveled to Spain, and was able to experience it. And that's when I saw girls not dropping out of school and just seeing a different life, that they went to college after high school and they were independent. And that was the thought that was stuck in my mind. And I knew that I wanted to be one of those girls who could be independent one day.
Amazing. So which year did you join?
I joined UA in 2012, and I joined the school that they started in 2015. It's called UA School. They saw that girls, wanted to be educated and they wanted a better school, and they started that in 2015, and I joined as a 7th grader. That was the first time I started learning English. It's a language that nobody really speaks back home. My parents didn't go to school, and it was, difficult not only for me, but all the other girls who joined the school, because we had never heard of this language or we hadn't spoken. And now directly transitioning into a school that was entirely taught in English was very challenging, but the teachers were very kind and supportive, and they translated at times when we didn't understand it in English. But from the second term, we were well equipped and we continued our education in English.
So did you stay on the campus or?
No, we live at home, and we travel by the school bus. So they do have like 2 buses.
Okay. Yeah. And so you went to Spain in 2015, you said?
In 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And that was your first travel outside Jharkhand, was it?
That was, I had traveled to Mumbai just a week before I traveled to Spain.
No, but was it because of the Spain?
Because of the Spain trip, yeah.
First trip outside Jharkhand.
In 2015, I did travel to Arunachal Pradesh. Okay. But that was my first one, and then like going to Spain was the first one abroad. Yeah.
Going to Arunachal was also because of football? Or?
Yeah, that was also because of football.
Football took you to places?
To all different places around India and abroad, yeah.
Amazing. So you went to Spain. You went to Spain and you played football there and came back. And then what happened?
Yeah, coming back definitely gave, a lot of hope and just faith to so many girls, and the number of girls who were part of the team drastically increased, because at the time, like before we had gone to Spain, it was probably like 300 girls, but after we came back and, people heard more about it, there were probably like 400 girls or 450 girls in the program. And after I came back, that's when I knew that I wanted to continue my education. I wanted to go to college. The goal of going to college wasn't there beforehand. It was after I saw that girls, are independent because they go to college. And that's where they learn. And I knew I wanted to be educated, but it was that trip in Spain that gave me that hope of, a brighter future. And that's what I desired afterwards.
So you continued playing football afterwards, and then when did you decide that you want to study abroad?
It was during my exchange year. So I had given my board exams in 2019, and I'd also applied for this exchange program called Canadian Lugar Youth Exchange and Study, where 40 students from India go to the US and they spend a year of high school. And I did my 11th grade in Seattle, and just seeing the education system, I felt like I was able to interact with the teachers more. I really like the education system where, just like being able to question, or it wasn't just like reading the books. It was more about like questioning and just like learning hands-on and being able to interact with other students and just like learning more about the world rather than like everything that's applicable. But like in India, I feel like there are so many things that are just not updated, and I felt like everything was just so updated back in the US, and I felt like that was the kind of education I wanted in the future. And that
did it work like an appetizer for you?
Kind of. Yeah, it did. Yeah.
First appetizer was like welcome drink was Spain.
Yeah, yeah,
Appetizer was US exchange program.
yeah, yeah,
And they have decided to apply.
yeah.
And so I think UA helped you in application process and everything, but it was your determination that so it was, I think, within 5-6 years, a lot of things happened in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of things changed.
Mhm.
So it was just your interaction with your cousin sister when you started asking about UA, and then seeing girls going to Spain, and then yourself going to Spain,
Mhm.
followed by the exchange program.
And before that, I was able to do like 2 summer programs, one at Washington University in St. Louis in 2018, and then I did another one at Cambridge University in the UK. But I would say like even, like having those experiences, even though they were only for a week and 2 weeks,
The exchange program was the larger.
yeah, yeah, that was the larger one. And I feel like, just having those experiences kind of taught me that it was just different, and that was the kind of environment I wanted to be in for the longer period.
So when you came back after 11th, did you share that you want to go abroad for your undergrad with your parents? And what was their reaction?
Yeah, I did tell them, but I feel like because I was away for a year and in the village, the only time you are away from your village is when you get married. That's the only reason why you leave the village. And a lot of, parents were scared, or, they tried to tell my parents that they shouldn't let me do that, or they shouldn't let me be away from home because, I'm a teenager, I may not be responsible, or, just because of safety reasons. But I feel like my parents exceptionally have been very supportive, and they knew that they wouldn't interrupt me if I, follow what they say, or not really like follow as in everything that they say, but as long as, I'm responsible and I take care of myself, they were fine with it. And I feel like there just have been like parents who knew they didn't want to stop me just because other people were saying, this is wrong, or she shouldn't be the one who needs to take a different route because others haven't taken. But they knew that, I had this dream of like going to college, and it was definitely hard for them, but they knew that they won't stop me. Like, they were scared that not living with a family is probably going to be much harder because there's nobody who is going to take care of me. Like, there was a family I stayed with during the exchange year. But at the same time, I feel like the trust has never been, like broken, and they know that I wouldn't do that.
So trust is one factor, but I wonder if there was any conversation around, the economic situation that they told you that, look, you should not be dreaming of something which we can't afford. Did you ever have, did you ever had such conversation with parents?
And I would say it was actually opposite. I knew that, they're in a situation that can't really support me going abroad, but I knew that scholarships exist, and I knew I would do it on my
You were always confident of
own.
applying to scholarships.
Yeah.
You had this awareness about scholarship.
I feel like also like, attending school at UVA, like when I started the school, most of the school fees were covered through the football program, but, like 10% of it wasn't covered. Like, I paid about like 600 rupees per month, but that wasn't paid by them. I coached soccer, led workshops, and I paid my school fees. So education was something that I had done it on my own. Like, they weren't paying for it, and I knew that even in the future I wanted to do it on my own. Yeah, I knew like my parents could not pay because my father works at a thread factory, and we are in the survival mode. We are farmers. We grow our own food, but I don't have people who have like professions that pay them a lot, or like would be even able to take care of the travel. But because the UA had introduced me to the idea of like scholarships, and that there are a lot of scholarships, and there are many colleges, if they accept you, they'll probably pay for your travel as well, along with personal expenses. Because, like when you grow up in poverty or in a poor family, that that's out of your reach, and you stop at that moment. But I knew because of like, resources, like financial aid that's provided by these colleges, I felt like maybe this is possible, and it worked out.
And you, in a way, you were making your parents aware about all of these so that they knew that finance is not going to be a challenge or problem.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, as you mentioned about trust factors, so they always trusted you, and so that is how it worked out. So when you decided to apply abroad for your college, so which colleges did you apply, and did you have this in mind that I really want to go to Harvard?
When I came back, because UA was started in 2015, and the first graduating class of UA school were class of 2020, and I was part of the second graduating class. And nobody from the first graduating class got into a university in the US with full financial aid, and that was definitely the fear. And I didn't know if that would be possible for me. I had the same colleges that they had applied to, and I was probably just going to apply to those 7 or 8 colleges. But because of the pandemic, many colleges went test optional, and that was probably the biggest advantage that I had, because I wasn't limited to the colleges that they had applied to, but I had many more colleges that they couldn't apply because those colleges required standardized tests like ACT or SAT or TOEFL or IELTS for English language requirement. But because of the pandemic, they went test optional, and I ran into an article in July 2020, and that's when I learned that these colleges like the Ivy League colleges or Stanford or MIT or like other liberal arts colleges went test optional. And that's when I realized that, maybe I should apply to these colleges, because like my family couldn't pay for the standardized tests. Like nobody at UA had taken those, and we didn't have the finances to take, whether it be that the TOEFL or the IELTS or SAT or ACT. And that was probably the biggest barrier that the other graduating class had, which I didn't because of the pandemic. And then there were a lot of colleges that do waive English language requirement, if you have studied in a school that was taught in English. And because I had been at UA since 7th grade and it was taught in English, I did get my English requirement waived. And because it was test optional, and I just did a lot of research, or as much as I could, to verify that it was accurate. And when I did find that these are colleges that I meet the criteria, and I am eligible to apply to these colleges, and that's when it started with the thought that maybe I could be a part of this Ivy League college or other colleges that were out of my reach. But at the time, I didn't know, what may work out, what may not work out, because I did have, a few things in my extracurriculars, but I was watching a lot of like YouTube videos, and I would be so discouraged because I felt like I didn't have as many as others did, or I didn't have the ones that they listed that would make me, or that would qualify me. But at the same time, I feel like some students definitely do a lot more than others. But I knew I had to stop watching those YouTube videos at some point, because I felt like it only discouraged me instead of, like helping me feel better about where I came from. But I would say, if the main reason why I was watching those videos was just to like see where I stand, but it wasn't helping me in that area.
Did you have a laptop which was supporting you in all this research?
At the time, I did have a laptop from the school in the US, but it wasn't working. So unfortunately, I did not. I used my phone to write all my essays, and then there were a few laptops.
Your phone to
Write most of my applications. Yeah. But US school did have a few laptops, and I did use like once or twice, but it was mostly the phone. And not only me, but like other students at UA mostly used phones as well to do most of their applications.
Any barrier at that point where you felt very frustrated?
Yeah, I mean, the screen on the phone is completely different, like seeing that on the laptop. And when it did work, I just felt like it was so much easier having a laptop, because you can, it's bigger, but also the format is different. And on the phone, you can see most of it. But at the same time, I knew like that was the only way to be, out of the home environment and just the village. Like there was no other way. And I knew that even if it's frustrating, I'm going to be calm and, just relax and continue with it.
And family was very supportive, not giving you home course or anything like work at home so that you can do your work, study or fill out forms. Were they all?
They were. I mean, the comparison of me not knowing certain chores was always there, but I feel like after I had joined US school, because I was playing, I was coaching, leading workshops, I didn't have enough time to, like help my family with like agricultural work or any, like house chores. And I feel like my brother was also very supportive, and he kind of like filled in for me. He knew that I wanted to study, and, he'd probably bring water from the hand pump or from the well, or help my mother cook. And I would say he probably played a very big role in my life as well. Because of him, I didn't have the pressure to do that. But at the same time, because, when I was younger, when I was a child, I helped my parents quite a lot. And they knew that, I had at least like helped them earlier. And now that I wanted to study, they did give me that space.
Great. So you played football. So what was your like role in the team?
I usually played left wing or sometimes a midfielder. But sometimes it did change. Sometimes those were the only two roles that I had in the team. Yeah.
And you also headed the team, I remember.
I was one of the vice captains of the team to Spain in the time, yeah.
But did you continue playing or are you playing now?
After the pandemic, I haven't. I feel like I wanted to explore other fields, like such as creative writing or screenwriting. And I feel like football was something, and it'll always be there for me. But I don't think I wanted to continue as a player. But if I have to coach, I'll probably continue with that in the future.
Okay, got it. So tell us more about your application process. So you applied to all the colleges, and then you had an interview by the Harvard Admission Committee. And how was that? How did it go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I applied to 22 colleges. I applied to Ashoka University in India and a college in Singapore, and all the other 20 colleges were in the US. I think 5 Ivies and Stanford, and other liberal arts colleges in the East Coast. I got into 4. I got into Middlebury, Trinity College in Hartford, and Harvard and Ashoka University. I had interviews from Harvard. I had the interview from Harvard and Ashoka as well. And I would say like both of them went really well. But focusing into the one from Harvard, it was by my admissions officer. She had already spoken with my high school principal. She wanted to understand, my background and what UA was doing, and just like verify, everything that I had sent were accurate. And when I did have the interview in February, I just feel like she was so friendly, and I just felt like I had known her even though I didn't. And I think just that environment made me feel so comfortable, and being able to answer things with, honesty and accuracy was something that I assume helped. But, even during the interview, there were times when, we were out of the video because of unstable internet connection. And then there was a time when my grandma just entered and she was just staring at the laptop, but I couldn't say anything to her. And she said hi to the admissions officer, and then was there for another minute and then left. But I feel like because the interview also lasted for like about an hour, even though it was supposed to last for like 30 minutes, I feel like, it's just like them being interested in like learning more about your life and just kind of like verifying things, but also kind of like like getting to know you as a person was integral part of the interview, and I feel like that definitely made it easier.
Wonderful. So, what was the moment when you received the Harvard call, the
Mhm.
admission officer, or whatever you received from Harvard? What was the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it was, April, like 4:30 in the morning, because I think it was released around like 7:30 in the evening in the US. Um, I could not sleep that night because, yeah, I was waiting for the result. I probably had woken up about like 7 or 8 times because, I just wanted it to be 4:30 when I could check the admissions portal and, see the result. And I feel like because I had a direct interview with the admissions officer, I definitely felt I had a better chance, but that couldn't guarantee, that you would probably get in. And when I did open, it was 4:30. One of my friends was with me, and two of my cousins in my room. I could not believe. I could not believe, that's what I was reading. But, after showing that to my friend and my cousins, I was overwhelmed, but I was also shouting that I got into Harvard, and my mother, of course, she couldn't understand what that was, or she didn't know any of the colleges that I had applied to, and she was telling me to, she was telling me to be quiet because, others were sleeping in the house, but I knew that it was a moment that I wanted, to express myself and just feel it. I did, tell her to tell other people that, I will be going to the US, not like other people in the village, but like my family members, because they weren't aware of it. And I told her, this is something I wanted, and now it's the time. I don't know how much of she understood, where the college was or how it looked like. But my cousins were very interested in it, and, they were very proud of it as well. And then I informed my teachers at UVA and my host family in the US. And, it was a moment that we all cherished at the time. And
So, after you got the offer letter from Harvard, I remember that it was everywhere in the media, and within how many days you started receiving calls and people started reaching out to you to cover your story, to cover your journey?
yeah, I would say it probably took a month or so because I had told Rose not to publish it. I feel like I had become a very private person, and definitely like people at home and, friends and people at UVA knew about it. But I just like told her to like wait and not publish it until like May, like third or the second week of May. But once it was published, it was, chaotic. There were so many calls from the media houses, but at the same time, they had not released any information about me. So everything went through Yuba, and then that's how they were able to reach out to me. And I feel like that was probably much better, or like a good idea, because yeah, I didn't have to go through the chaos. Though there were a few media houses that directly reached out to me or, came to the house. But at the same time, like most went through Yuva, or like, they were the ones in the middle, like who kind of verified, these are the people you should meet, or, they will be the people who would be coming to you, or, are you comfortable interviewing with them? Because it was still the pandemic, and, the fear of coronavirus was still there. But I think they did a very good job with that. And I didn't have to go through a lot. Yeah.
How did you get to know that Priyanka Chopra also tweeted about you?
It was through one of my cousins who, follows her, and she was the one who showed me, because I wasn't on social media at the time. And I couldn't believe it, because, it's like you see their post, but you don't expect to see yourself as part of their, social media. And it was an exciting moment for sure. There was a letter I received from a person from, I think, Florida, who, wrote that a person who was born in Jharkhand praising someone else who was born in Jharkhand as well. But it was an exciting moment for all of us, for
Did
sure.
someone from government also reach out to you? Government of Jharkhand?
I think they reached out to Yuva, but because of COVID, I could not meet them. But yeah. And it was probably better for all of us because, I had to leave for college and we didn't want any issues with that.
So
Yeah.
21 September, you started college.
Yeah, probably.
How was it, the transition,
Mm-hmm.
your village to Harvard?
I mean, it was definitely a bit shocking, even though I had been in the US for a year. College system is so different. College life is so different. You live with other. Yeah, it's the fix. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you lived in a very secure environment, a smaller ecosystem, and then suddenly you are going to Boston and seeing the big class and meeting a lot of people from different cultures. Yeah, so
Yeah, I did have, 5 roommates. The first year, we had 3 rooms, and I shared a room with another girl. And I would say, I definitely got to know them a lot more as time passed. But just like the pace of life, it's just so fast, and knowing that, you need to like slow it down, but you can't because, you attend classes and you go to the libraries to study, or you hang out with friends, or you are part of certain clubs. But also just like, being around people only of your age was very different. But at the same time, I enjoyed it quite a lot because it's much easier to like connect with people and, just like share what you're going through. Knowing, what resources to access took a bit of time. I feel like I was aware of the resources more like during my second semester rather than first semester. Also because there are so many resources that you have to kind of pick what you want to use because you can't, access or use every single opportunity that exists in the college. And I feel like, now being a junior, I feel like I have found my community and I know, the people I should be reaching out to or where to get help if I do need. And I feel like just having a community helps your college experience so much, and it just makes it better, like when you feel supported and loved in that environment.
So you went to Harvard on 100% scholarship, right? So are there other classmates in your batch who also are on the same 100% scholarship?
I would say because, or like I did read, on their website, on the financial aid website, that 20% of the undergraduate students are on financial aid and are first generation low income students. So like 1 in, every 5 student is one. Though there are very few people, who come from a background where, they just had very little. And I have found, a few friends, whether be that, from Kenya or from, South Africa or Ghana, or even from India, who, not necessarily share the same background, but have similar experiences or like understand where I come from. And I feel like that definitely helps you get to know them better or like, connect with them at an easier level.
So, many of our viewers would be interested to know about scholarships that, if they are in 9th grades or 10th grades in their high school, what do they do? Or, if they are in middle income background, with the middle income background or low income background, what do they do in terms of, getting scholarships? Because a lot of students from India are now aspiring to go to the US and to the Ivy League colleges. But, due to the financial situation, they are unable to take a call. So do you have any specific suggestions for them?
I would say, to fill out the common application, there is definitely a fee, whether it be that $75 for a college or, $80 for the other one. But if you are, someone who can't afford that, you do get that waived. That's how I got my 2020 colleges waived. I didn't have to pay any application fees. Along with, financial aid, there are many colleges that give you or provide you 100% or full financial aid if your family earns, below a certain level. Like for Harvard, I think it was $65,000 a year. Now maybe it's 75, but I would say, just like doing more research, because there are a lot of universities that do, provide full financial aid. And the main thing is just like getting into them and not the financial constraint.
So, I got your point, but the question which I have, the following question is that the economic criteria is one thing, that they need to be under certain income bracket,
Yeah.
their parents. But what about other extracurricular activities or things like that they should be preparing for?
Yeah, definitely. And they do look into, extracurricular activities. And I feel like, after having talked to like other friends who are also on financial aid and just like seeing the similarities between me and them, and it's a lot about like public service or, social good. They do look into like those extracurriculars or way than more. So just like being part of like those clubs or, organizations that are trying to, just like help other people or, just like make a better society or provide education to unprivileged kids. But like, yeah, they do like, look into like various extracurriculars, whether it be that into education or, science or something else. But I think just like being a part of wide range of extracurriculars would probably be a plus point. But along with that, I would say another area that, is pretty essential in the college applications is recommendations. And that is, the recommendation that's sent from like high school teachers or counselors. And I think, the ones who are probably able to like write the best recommendations are the teachers who know you the best. And it could be, someone who has taught you for a few years or someone just like knows you as a person and, what you desire or your goals and your dreams. But someone who just like knows you well would be a good recommender.
I see. I get your point. So, tell me more about your the kind of courses which you did. Some of the best courses which you really enjoyed at Harvard.
Recently I took a course called Poverty in America, and I feel like that has helped me, see the other side of America, or just like a part of the society that I wasn't aware of. I just never came across that part of America, and I feel like, just like learning how poverty does not only exist, in India or in other parts of the world, but also in developed nations. That was probably like an eye-opening course for me. But also like taking courses on like anthropology or the arts or taking an entrepreneurship course. I think like these courses have definitely shown me like different parts of the society and like introduced me to like, different fields, whether it be that entrepreneurship, anthropology, or, maths or economics, or, film studies. But I feel like the liberal arts education has exposed me to all different fields.
Wonderful. So you were mentioning about that kind of extracurricular activities the students should be doing and what they consider. So in this summer immersion program where we are taking 100 high schoolers to Katiyar in Bihar, the idea is to expose them to a public policy framework using new education policy as the public policy framework, where we are going to expose them with the theoretical things around public policy and especially this new education policy. And they will be teaching at a government school, mentoring lower mentees from lower grades. They will be knowing more about local self-government and exposing them to panchayats, how does the panchayat function and municipal corporation functions. Then we will be also organizing cultural exchanges for them. So do you think that this kind of summer immersion program where the students are going out of their city bubbles, and going to a smaller place for a month, and deep diving into local issues. So, do you think that this kind of stuff can help to the students?
I would say this would not only like, help them have a better resume, but also just like help them realize, what they want to do in the future. And probably, like when you're a middle schooler or high schooler, it will probably change, but it definitely gives you a direction of where you want to go. And I feel like, just like being in an environment where you meet other students, I think that would also be very beneficial for the students to have that support and have, friends who are going through the same phase. I think one of my friends who was also my classmate, having her beside me, or like, knowing that we are going through the same experience, just like pushed us to do better. And it's like being accountable. And I feel like, just like as you mentioned, having 100 kids, they'll probably be able to make at least 10 friends or 5 friends. And I feel like that support system will definitely take them much further.
It can also help them in building narratives.
And just like learning about each other's journeys, and not only from Bihar but like from other parts of India as well. And just like being able to like learn about the issues as well, because when you are able to like know how to portray those issues or how you feel about those, maybe they'll be able to like bring that into their story and like write a better essay in the common application that would probably put them at a better place than other applicants.
And the other thing which we are starting, Seema, is that some of the students in India, they do take a gap year after 12th. But unlike US, Canada, and other countries, we don't have a very structured program where they can go through certain immersion programs, or they don't know what to do if they are taking gap year. So we are also starting a gap year. Do you think that universities like Harvard, Yale, and other Ivy Leagues, they do promote, or they not promote, but they do support students or encourage students to take a gap year and learn more about themselves and explore things that they have not been able to explore until the grade 12th or something like that?
I would definitely agree with that idea, because a lot of, even students or my friends who, apply to colleges or are in the same year, a lot of them took gap years. Though I didn't know about that until, like a year ago, or I may have thought of that idea as well. Because, when we have just finished our 12th grade, I feel like many are sure what they want to do, but there are also other students who do not have an idea or don't have a direction, and they don't know what they, should be studying. And I feel like we do need that time to, figure out where we want to go in the future. And I feel like a lot of people do see that as a waste of time, but it is not a waste of time. It helps you discover yourself. And I feel like, this program probably would, help them just like meet people and, find a direction in life that they would have not been able to find otherwise. And in the US, there are a lot of students who take not only a year before they, start college, but sometimes they even take like 3 years and then start college. And there's a friend, from the Middle East who took 5 years or 6 years. And so definitely, it was shocking when I heard about it. I was like, oh, what did you do? And he was like, I probably worked. He worked in a company, or, he started something, or he was part of a fellowship. And then there are other students who just take a year off and they apply to colleges. And I feel like that's when I have learned, there's no point in rushing. And I feel like, just taking the time and trying for something better than, being at a place by rushing that you probably would have not wanted to end up at.
Got it. It makes sense, yeah. So, I would be very interested to know that, where do you see yourself in next 5 years? I'll not ask 10 years because you are too young. You must have thought about it, but where do you see in yourself like in next 5 years?
I would say I actually think I know where I want to be in the next 3 years, because, I will probably have the 3 years so OPT where I can work in the US because of my F1 visa. And I feel like I want to work towards international development or education for, the 3 years that I have over there. I do want to go to business school at some point, but I don't know if that would happen, after those 3 years or after 5 years. But I do want to be in the US for the first 3 years and just like gain some work experience and see where life takes afterwards.
As I know, you also have a plan to write your book. You have been writing. Where does that stand? And, I am sure, a lot of youngsters would love to read your story so far. And so where does this stand?
I mean, I definitely, have that idea or have had that idea since like the last year, but I haven't been able to write much. I feel like college definitely has been busy. I don't know if, that would come out in the next 5 years or next 15 years, but that is going to be, a project of mine that I will continue to write until it's done. But it's not yet ready, and I don't think it will, even be done in the next, 3 years. It will be, a long-term project for sure. Yeah.
So did you ever feel like meeting Priyanka Chopra? She lives in the US. Like to tell her what you are up to and what you are doing.
Yeah, she does live there. I feel like I definitely would love to meet her when I can, but I feel like I was not ready, or I just want to know more of myself, or just me when it happens, and not really try to meet her right now. But I definitely have that idea, and would love to meet her at some point in the future and talk about education. As she has been involved with UNICEF for such a long time, and just her experience around it. But I don't know if that would be any soon.
Yeah. Okay, not a problem. So one thing I keep thinking whenever I meet you, or whenever I think of you, that you are really an inspiration, and you can be an inspiration for many youngsters whom probably you don't know, or they probably don't know about you. So, I truly feel that somehow you should be, we should be working towards that, where you are able to inspire or guide or help girls like you, or in your situation, where they have aspiration, they have talent, and the aspirations and talents are not wasted. So do you have any thought or plan? You mentioned that you want to work in education sector. Do you have any thought or plan around that?
I haven't thought around that area, but I feel like now it's so home, and would definitely love to be involved with it. But I feel like in the future, when I do want to work towards education, or start something of my own, but I am connected with students from UVA for sure, or read their essays when they're applying to colleges. But I do feel like I want to be involved more with that in the future, but not currently.
Okay. So as we are going to close this conversation, so what 2 or 3 suggestions you can give to youngsters or adolescents? Because you are at an age and in a situation, being a student at Harvard, where a lot of adolescents, or 15 years, 16 years of age kids would aspire to go. So what suggestions you might have for them?
I mean, the first one definitely would be, don't let the challenges stop you. And I would say, whatever comes in, just recognizing all the opportunities that are out there and going for them, instead of, all the hurdles that may be on the way. The other one would be, happiness, which is, just being happy in the present. That's a topic that I feel like a lot of people have been discussing. And just knowing that, happiness isn't a destination, and it's the process. I would say those probably are my 2 suggestions for other high school students, or anyone who's watching this.
And what are wonderful suggestions, and what are some of the ways through which they can stay connected with you? I think you are on Instagram, LinkedIn.
I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are probably the best.
You want to
ways.
share your LinkedIn profile and Instagram handle?
It,
What name you have? You are there.
it is LinkedIn is at Seema Kumari, and then Instagram it's I think SEEMAAKUMAARI. Yeah.
Great. So those who wish to follow Seema and what she is up to and what she is doing, you can follow her on Instagram and LinkedIn. I also follow her. I'm a big fan of her, so you also can follow. So lovely talking to you, Seema. As usual, as always, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I always learn and get recharged whenever I meet you, whenever I talk to you. So thanks for being on the show, and I wish you all the very best. And I truly wish that you continue to do what you want to do, and you are able to achieve everything you wish to achieve, and all the very best for your future, bright future. And thanks to all the viewers who watched us talking, our conversation. It's always pleasure to talk to Seema, and wishing you all very best. And if you want to reach out to her, she already shared her handles. And thank you all for watching Travels with me and with Seema Kumari. Thank you so much. Thank you.